beautiful, gorgeous beings of light with Nick and Bean unscripted. Yeah,
I'm Beanie.
I'm Nick.
We're going to take you on a journey of conversations that includes things like purple unicorns, aliens, real life stuff, and anything in between.
We can't wait to see where these conversations take us, because I can guarantee you they're going to get pretty cray-cray.
Well, with you in the room, Nicola, anything can happen.
That is true. Thank you for joining us on our journey. If you have any input that you want to add to this channel, we would love to hear from you. In the meantime, let's get the show on the road. That's how this energy is today. Fucking Mercury is in retrograde.
We've had a few problems, haven't we?
We've had a few problems, and I'm loving life, and my computer is going to stay with us. I've white lighted it, but I'm not sure if it does the same for technology. I white lighted it. Okay, what are we doing? We're talking about podcast 4. Boom shakalaka.
4.
Yeah, 4, man.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Go for it.
And we were in conversations this week. I was talking to my lovely sister Rachel, and I was thinking, well, what are we going to fucking talk about this week? Just because, you know, it's nice to be a little bit prepared in these kind of chaotic times. And she mentioned, why don't you talk about your relationship? And I was like,
why don't you do that?
Yeah.
Still unscripted though, because we haven't spoken about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, that's true.
So even though we said, should we talk about our relationship? I think that we should talk about a relationship, but I think, what about talking about relationships?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
And I think this can be the start of like one of a series of like 10 or something, if people like it, because there is so much to cover. We don't take notes, right? So like, things have been popping into my head for the last couple of days since you mentioned it, and I'm like, write it down, and then I'm like, I can't write it down, it's unscripted. So there's going to be things that come up today that I haven't thought about, and then there's also going to be things I've thought about that are really great that I'm going to totally forget about. And knowing that this is such a huge topic.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think we should start though. I mean, I would like to start. There's no should. I would like to start on our journey as a...
Okay, so today we're talking about our journey.
Yeah, and then if it crosses over to relationships in general, let's dabble in that. And then we might need to make notes because our memory is so amazing.
Well, we've got a video that we can play back, so we're pretty cool. We're good to go.
Yeah, that's true. We can just maybe make a note on video podcast about what it is we need to extend on in terms of relationship. But
okay, so this is just a storytelling?
It could be storytelling, it could be wherever.
Are we jumping in and like you tell a story about something, and you're happy for me to jump in and say,
yeah, 100%.
That's not the way I saw it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm ready.
You were being an arsehole that day.
I'm ready to be fucking triggered. I am ready to be triggered. Bring on the triggered. Now, footnote here, motherfuckers. Okay, relationship 101. The reason why partners or relationships are so fucking amazing is because 1, they trigger the fuck out of you. 2, they bring up shadow work like nothing else. And I think what I have found definitely in our relationship, and just generally, relationships are a powerful force for shadow work. They are like, light up my path. I'm going to put bombs on the path, and I'm going to make you blow up on many occasions, so you can truly come back home to yourself more frequently.
Whilst also loving and caring for each other.
Yeah. Now,
in between the bombs, I would like to say, if we just took a screenshot of our life right now and what's holding it together.
Yeah.
It's me on a unicorn.
Okay, well, as a typical Virgo would have it, she's blowing her own fucking trumpet thinking she knows it all. So I love that.
Also, Nicola's been working on not swearing so much. How do you think she's going?
Yeah, not really good. And I was just going to say that also, if you've got kids, obviously they are also really super amazing with shadow work, like next level. Fucking, hey, I'm seeing myself, and this is why relationships, friendships, all that kind of stuff, that they're so powerful. And the more you hang around people, I'm just side noting the fuck out of this, the more you hang around with people that are real, authentic, honest, open, transparent, the more you can start growing as an individual. Because, you know, I mean, look, don't get me wrong, I'm totally digressing, but don't get me wrong, you know, there's people out there that don't participate in your life and they just, you know, give you permission all the time, which is absolutely fucking lovely. And you can sense the vibe when they're in the vibes of going, I know what I want, I know where I'm going, you know, you sense the vibe, you go, yeah, absolutely, 100. But if there's people sitting on the fence or they've been a bit nego or they're not really wanting to, you know, there's not, I believe true, honest, loving relationships are so powerful that they can open you up to a new periphery of self and really get to the deeper truth of who you are. And I'm just going to say that before we start.
Fantastic segue.
Okay, so let's rewind 18 years ago.
Once upon a time.
I met Beanie 18 years ago. We were on a dance floor. She was a DJ. Our good friend Nikki, or her ex-partner or partner at the time, Nikki, Beanie was DJing. I bumped into Dex. Nikki gave me a bit of a look. I was like, no worries. Then Beanie met me at the bar. I was off my head. She bought me a drink. I can't remember. And then I had a bit of a dance. We were having a great time. Do you recall this?
I don't recall dancing with you, no.
Okay. Well, I was dancing, more importantly, on tabletops.
I believe, as you said, I was DJing.
Yeah.
So I was playing.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. And and then I was with her partner at the time, Cherry. Much love to you, beautiful. And we saw each other probably about a year later or something ridiculous. And Beanie was with her partner at the time, Nikki, and I was with Cherry, and we had dogs and we had a small interaction. Then fast forward another 2 years, I think, I walked into Beanie's shop. I was selling alcohol at the time. I know I'm a changed woman, and I was doing business development and selling grog. I walked in there and I was like,
the two go together so well.
Right?
I'm just developing my business.
Yeah. Anyway, I walked in there and I was like, oh wow, I know you. And
fuck, you're making stuff up.
No, I know. Hey, my memory.
No idea. She's making stories up like there's no tomorrow.
Anyway,
there was no dogs involved in our meetings.
No, we did have dogs.
No, we were you were sitting outside Globe Cafe with Cherry. I was standing outside with Billy, my dog, and Nikki went into Globe Cafe because she
maybe
was
I didn't have a dog at that time.
And then she came out and I turned around. You didn't have Peanut then, which was her dog's name.
Yeah.
Then I came out.
Yeah.
She came out and I turned around to my girlfriend and I said, she's pretty hot for a lesbian.
Okay.
And I was talking about you. That was the only, that's the whole story of all of that.
Okay, but what about when I went into your shop as a restaurant?
Okay. You had no idea then about who I was.
No, yeah, no,
I had no idea of who you were.
No, I know that. But when I walked in there, and this is 18 years ago, guys, so just fucking bear with us, right? I walked in there, I saw you, I didn't know straight away. You're right. But after
because I believe word for word, she thought I was too plain and normal.
Yeah, you fast forwarding until we meet the next time. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so then I remember Beanie. I was like, oh, I know you. You used to be a DJ. I fucking remember saying it. You used to be a DJ, and you were like, yeah, blah blah blah. Right, that's what I remember. Okay. Anyway, lo and behold, I leave, go home.
Should I jump in and start telling the story?
What part?
What did you do when you left and went home?
Now this isn't this isn't when I went for breakfast with my friends.
I thought you didn't give me a thought until that.
Until when?
Until the more of the story comes out.
I didn't give you more of a thought. I walked out.
Why are you telling them? Then I went home.
I went home? Well, I'm telling the whole story. I'm telling them the whole story.
Made myself some toast. And I thought, what did I have that day? I think it was Vegemite on toast.
I can't remember, but if I did, I would be saying this right now.
Anyway. You don't need to say it. That's the whole point.
Okay.
Don't go into too much detail in between. Give it short.
Okay.
It's 18 years, Nicola.
Okay, I understand. Well, we're going to fast track a lot of things. Anyway, so then I get up and fuck you all if you're not liking my story. And I went to a friend's birthday on a Saturday morning. I was very hungover.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I was very hungover. I walked in, blah, blah, blah. You can go.
Thank you very much.
Jesus.
At which point I turned around to my manager of said restaurant that I owned, and I said, I need you to go and find out more about that girl over there. And he's like, what do you mean? And he goes, oh, her name's Nicola, blah, blah, blah. I think she's in a relationship, but then she maybe isn't anymore. I'm not sure. And I said, well, you need to go and find out. He's like, I can't just walk over there. And I rudely said to him, yes, you can. And if you don't go and find out whether she's still in a relationship, you don't have a job. And so he went and talked to you, and you'd been single, trying to be single for a year. And
Yep.
I believe you were on month 11.
Yep.
And then I turned around to my friend Larissa, and I in the bar, and I said, she's going to be my next girlfriend. And she goes, how do you know? And I said, I just know. And there was this vibe, like it was such a vibe. Now at this point, I had no idea, because Nicola was trying to be straight and had grown her hair. And when I knew her with the other things she's talking about, she had hair similar to that, but like spiky, and wore dog collars and stuff. Anyway,
it was a thing, people. It was a thing.
And at this point, she was wearing suits and had grown her hair about to here, which sounds weird for anyone.
I was trying to be straight. I'm not going to deny it. I was trying to be straight.
So I didn't know that they were the same person. Like I had no idea that the Nicola from the Mink Bar buying her a drink and seeing her outside Globe was the same person that I was about to ask out on a date, which I didn't ask you out on a date.
No.
I strategically went over there as she was about to leave, and I was like, shit, she's leaving. And I grabbed my business card and I stuck it in her jacket pocket.
So smooth. I didn't actually even know that she put it in my pocket. It was so smooth. Kudos on that. Until I put my hand in to walk out, I was like, oh, hello, got a number. Smiled at her. She smiled at me.
And then she stood me up 3 times.
Yeah, it's true.
So she stood me up, and she stood me up, and she stood me up apparently because I was too plain and normal.
That's not true. Actually, can I just intercept? Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just intercept that? That's not the truth. Yes, you were, you know, I had a type. Okay. I had a type. I'm a typical.
Talking about a typical lesbian.
I was in whatever lesbian and like chicks, if we're not going to label anything, like chicks, like guys too, just so you know. I'm open to all. I'm, free for all, basically. And then I wanted to impress my parents. I wanted to make them happy, because ultimately they weren't truly forthcoming with being in a same-sex relationship, and I wanted to make them proud. Yeah. So then that's why I stood up 3 times.
And so I rang her, and she said, my boss doesn't want me to mix business with pleasure, and because I work for him and supply alcohol to your restaurant, it's kind of not a good thing. And so I said, if I quit my job tomorrow, will you go on a date with me on Thursday?
And I love romance, and I folded like a mofo, and then we hooked up.
We went on a date, and now I sacrificed a lot that night because I was meant to go and watch my mum in a play. And I came to meet you instead and cancelled going to her play, which I always did. And then my sister's friend saw me on this date with you, and I was like, fuck, I'm busted. Anyway, we went on a date together, and
it was seriously, I saw her. She was wearing a black bandana. I was like, yesterday, and she was like the hottest chick I had fucking ever laid eyes on. And it was, honestly, I was like, what the fuck was I thinking, Nicola? Where have you been? She was just, yeah, she was very attractive, and I regret those stand-up factors. However, here we are.
Because I was suffering in my rejection space, and my friend that I lived with, she was like, you deserve, doing all the good friend things. You deserve better. She doesn't deserve you, with stuff. I'm like, you don't understand. There is something that is happening with this chick, person, human, whatever, that is greater than. It's greater than that. Like it wasn't just lust. It was like, there was this connection, and I couldn't understand it. And then I still didn't understand it once we got together, because she was as mad as a cut snake. And I mean, like, people think she's crazy now. If you take what she is now and multiply it by 10, or take away control, groundedness, respect, consideration, all of those things. She was honestly, and I mean, I was pretty trashy back then still too. I had my own ways of coming home pretty mashed up.
What about, can you tell them when you...
She was like fucking next level.
Can you tell them
Excuse my
about
language.
when you realized I was that person at Minta?
Oh, well, it was that Sunday, like the Sunday that I finished work. It was a Sunday morning, you came in for breakfast and I'd given you a business card. And I'd been, not in a creepy way, like just in a wondering way. I would be wondering every now and then, because I'd broken up from my partner too for about a year. And through that year, she kept popping into my mind. And I was like, I wonder where that chick is now. Like, I wonder where she is. That girl with the spiky blonde spiky hair, and that's all I knew her as. I didn't know her name, and I was just like, I wonder where she is, and she kept popping up. Anyway, I was DJing then as well, so I went home and I was trying to have a sleep, and I lay down on my pillow, and all of a sudden I saw her eyes, and I sat up so quickly, and I was like, oh my God. And I picked up the phone and I'm ringing my manager, and I ring him and I go, it's her. And he goes, who? And I said, it's that chick that I used to have a crush on, like that had the blonde spiky hair. It's the same person, it's the eyes. I know who it is. And yeah, so there was this connection. So it hadn't even been started from when she came into the restaurant or supplied us alcohol. This is the same person that I had a thing for earlier on. And anyway, like we got together, we went on dates and stuff, and I was just like watching, I was watching this person going, fuck, I find you so fascinating. I'm so drawn to you. I'm so attracted to you. There's something higher than this, because this behavior is probably not okay. For, anyway, out of control. I don't need to go into it.
Awesome.
Nicola was having fun. And I remember about 2 months into the relationship, like I sat down with a friend of mine, Riz, to have a beer, and we were sitting there having a beer together, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like everything about us is opposite. Like everything, she is like, if I was to fall in love with someone, I would not pick that person. Well, actually, that's not true. My ex and her are similar in a lot of ways, and I'll explain it in a minute. But I just inappropriate. She was inappropriate. She was no boundaries. She was destructive. There was so many things, like way loud, extrovert, like to the fucking hills and back. And I was not. I'm an introvert, extrovert, whatever. Anyway, I was like, I don't know how to do this, and that didn't go away for a very long time.
Well, can I? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It was just, I knew that there was this thing, whatever this thing was, I knew it was greater than me. I knew it was greater than our relationship. And that is what kept us together a lot.
Yeah.
Until it didn't sometimes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess when we first started dating, I mean, look, I was, yeah, I was a species to myself. And I would say that, you know, I'm not going to exclude you. You had your own stuff yourself. You know, we were very polar opposites. She came
You were destructive. I was controlled.
She was controlled, but also came from a very English, you know, culturally, you know, quite, you know, don't want to do this and, you know, can't do that and all that kind of stuff. We were polar opposites. We had an astrologist told us once, we've had a few people tell us, you know, how do you guys work? You know, I was punching walls. I had no control of my anger. Like I literally was frustrating. I was frustrating with the, you know, her, I guess in a lot of ways, her carelessness with her words. She tends to be a bit of a Virgo. Virgos tend to be a little bit careless with her words. They're a little bit direct and blunt, and me not having any periphery of myself, I didn't have a way to communicate my emotions, because basically I was a fucking loose cannon in terms of being highly emotional, highly receptive, and not knowing a fucking thing about it. And so with both of us together, we were literally running each other up.
We were really perfectly there for each other's triggers, right? Like as mirrors, and like that agitation came as mirrors, but it was like, and this is what I say, like when we talk about our relationship and then talk about relationships, like in anything, it's like you really have to look at yourself first and take responsibility for your own behaviors. So when you're saying, you know, there's so many times when you behaved in a certain way and I felt shame, and I was like, my reactions were like, don't mess up this perfect image. Not that I had a perfect image. People that know me would probably not say I had a perfect image or whatever. I don't know. But, you know, I tried so hard, especially because I had anxiety for 20 years. Like, I'd maintained this idea, right? Like, and I think part of it was to stay safe, and the other part was to not let anything go too out of control, whatever. Anyway, you know, my projections came from me wishing you were different, right? Like, so I'm in love with this person on one hand and can't get enough. And then on the other hand, like, everything about her is dangerous to me, right? It was dangerous to me in a sense of, I can't be who I am because of your behavior. And that became a huge projection. Like a huge projection.
A lot about relationship.
Yeah, and I think it was really hard, and I probably have never said that to you.
I mean, you've apologized for that. It was a big projection, and I think from Beanie's behavior, not saying that I was eluded, like I was excluded from my own personal behavior, but from that behavior is that I learned how important it is to accept each other. Like, one of the biggest things that I realized from my Beanie's response to me was how important it was to accept someone, in allowing them to process what it is that they need to process. Because the thing is, ultimately, Beanie is, you know, I had so many triggers with Beanie. You know, she's incredibly smart, she's intelligent, she's highly compassionate, which I fucking didn't have a lot of, you know, because compassion comes, well, the lack of compassion comes from, in a sense, a lot of protection. And
of course it does.
And so, you know, I didn't have a lot of that. So, you know, Beanie was like, you know, she'd have all these fucking people swarm to her, and she'd be like, nah, yeah, and everyone saying no, and I just felt so triggered, intellectually, compassionate wise. And I was like, it took me a long time, and what was so perfect about it is that it took me a long time, and we've been going, you know, a long time, to realize that
we've been going a long time,
you know, like that my compassion, although it, you know, in the past probably didn't feel quite there. Obviously, I didn't have compassion for myself in that space, but it took me a long time to realize that I am compassionate. You know, that we, in a relationship, quite frequently, we compare each other, you know, or people can compare each other, or you're not this, or I'm not that, and you're this, and I'm not that. You know, we have to come, I believe, in a relationship, we have to come to peace that what we are is enough, and that what I offer compassionately, intellectually, like, I'm not books, I'm not theory smart, book smart, but give me a life experience, give me something that, you know, takes me off the edge. I can talk to anything about that, and that, you know, and it took me a long time to realize that those golden nuggets are beautiful, and it's taken Beanie a long time to also accept me in knowing that that is enough too, you know. And it's been big.
I think too, though, like from like, I mean, we'll go into like other stories because there's so many, so many experiences. It's that whole thing of like, you end up hating what you love, you know. And my choice of partners, and I've only ever had 3, and the first one was quite short and not what I base a relationship on. Like, 2 beautiful people, one of them was me, and a beautiful woman called Eliza, and it was like a short volatile relationship. And because of my, excuse me, I guess my upbringing and witnessing what relationships are or aren't, like, I just assumed that's what relationships were. But if I'm going off this relationship and my last one, very similar personalities, like outgoing, uncomfortable in both about how outgoing and outspoken both were. But I choose that to bring out myself. Like, I know that given I'm an introvert, but I want to be more extroverted, it's such a subtle subconscious thing that I've chosen like people with that personality, because I know that's what I need. And when I say I know, I mean my soul chooses this as a directive for me, because deep down, I wanted to change. I didn't want to stay the same. I wanted to grow, and I wanted to grow out of myself. So I choose people who are beyond like my comfort zone. If I stay in my comfort zone, I've never wanted to be with someone who just agreed with me or thought that I was amazing. And I don't mean I wanted them to not think I was amazing, because Nicola just said lovely things about me and that felt really good. But I think I wanted people to challenge me, and fuck was it challenging. Like it's been really challenging because and when I look back, I go, our insecurities came into the relationship a lot as well. And I think it's really interesting. And I hope when I say this, it doesn't make it okay for people to stay in relationships, because it's not what I'm saying, but I do reflect on, we always stay in relationships longer than we should sometimes because of our own worth. And I believe there was definitely times in our relationship where your own worth or my own worth, and I'm not going to speak for you, but like for me, we probably stayed in spaces longer because of our worth. Like, like I probably stayed in my own discomfort and pain and painful periods because I didn't yet understand what it meant to have a truly loving relationship. Like we had this deep connection and we had all those things, but were we truly loving and respecting each other to a point? But like, if we were to say that, if I look back on times to where we are now, like I would go, no, we weren't. We were doing what
you could
we
say
thought.
from your perspective.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I've said that. I'm not going to speak for you.
Yeah.
So there was definitely not respect, and there was not allowances for each other to be who they were in that space. And to me, I go, that's not so the love came on one level, but it didn't on another. And we probably stayed in those spaces because we didn't believe we deserved more, maybe, but I don't know, I'm just saying that. But at the same time, we've still had situations where we've decided to part ways for a little while, haven't we?
Many.
Right. And we chose that ourselves each at different times to support that. And I think when I say about the love thing, like there's situations that we've been in that I remember talking to our dear friend Molly, when we were going through a certain situation, and she looked at me and she goes, I don't even know anyone that has got through this in a relationship, or anyone that would allow things like this in a relationship. And for me at that time, I didn't understand how not to hold space for you. It's like if I'm to love someone and accept them with all of their things, then we have to ascertain what's too much for us in something, and when we have to hold that person through something.
I think, and can I just say, with that, I'm going to be honest, I had an emotional relationship with another person at a period of time in our relationship, and emotional being that it was a lot through text, and it was, nothing ever happened physically, which I'm fucking very grateful for. But at that same time, that emotional connection took me away from what I was to have with my partner, Beanie, at the time. And one of the things I find with cheating, or I understand that. I really fucking understand it. Like, I understand it because I was so there. I was so there because I wanted to be somewhere where I wasn't. I wanted to be somewhere where I wasn't. And what I did was I projected what our relationship as the problem. But in essence, I was the problem. I had a problem with where I was at, and I was looking, and I'm not doing a general blanket here, but I find that when we look outside frequently, when our life is not content, it's taking ourselves away from our truest realization. And the moment when I communicated to Beanie this emotional relationship, I sense this pain. Like, it was so, I can remember it tore my heart open and fucking stabbed me 80 times. It was the most painful experience I had ever done to Beanie. And I realized at that point, what the fuck was I doing? Why would I want to hurt the person that I love so much. And I realized at that point that I was the problem and that I had to fix why I was unhappy, and that no one was going to be able to fix it. Even this illusion, this person that I was texting, you know, this illusion of this other life, you know, the reality is relationships are hard work. They are, they force you to dig to your deepest parts of yourself. Personally, from my experience, it has been the most rewarding by far of any of my experiences in my life, because it's been the most longest journey of my life, but it's also been the most rewarding and enriching for my own self. And yeah, I think that, you know, I think about, you know, you talk about your journey. I think about my insecurity as a person from my past relationships. You know, I desperately wanted love. I desperately wanted love. I yearned for love at the deepest level, and everything that was being projected to me or shown to me was my own lack of love for myself. And so it hurt. Everything being projected to me was my own internal fucking environment, my own opinion, my own life, my own thoughts. It was the toughest thing, and journey wise, to realize that I could be the only person to change who I was. I could be the only person. I couldn't. And that you know, this love that I sought so much, it didn't even matter if Beanie fucking bowed down to me and fucking rolled out a red carpet and popped a champagne every time I walked through the door. I'd want more. I would want more from her, because I was, you know, I didn't realize, or I could not realize that, you know, what I needed more than anything was to go deeper within itself. And that's why the projections and the shadows and all that kind of stuff was so critical in my growth.
And I think too, and it's good to see that, like, two perspectives of that as well, and also that part of holding space as well until you don't. And it's like that moment that you talked of when you looked at me and you felt like you said you felt. I distinctly remember that pinnacle of time when I just looked and I was like, this isn't okay. Do you know what I mean? And not that it was okay before that, but when it was happening before that, it was like we were working together, right? Like, I was looking up houses for you to move into if that's what you needed to do. Was that what we were doing?
No, I can't remember.
We looked up, like a room that she go, if she needed to leave and go and do her own thing. I believe I said to you at the time, if you need to go and be with this person, go and do it. But I can't promise you where I'll be after that happened. But I give you permission to do it.
Yeah,
but I can't guarantee you anything, because I didn't want to stop any human. I don't want to be with someone who's staying with me if they want to be with someone else. Like, to me, that's a falsehood. I don't need to be loved that much or have that relationship that much in a distorted way. Like, I think we're lying to ourselves if we're allowing something like that. So it was like, you go and do what you need to do, but I can't promise. But it was when you did sort of put that thing on me in going, why can't you be like blah, blah, blah. And that was when you saw my face, because that was like, are you fucking serious? And I think that was a point, wasn't it, where I lost my shit? Not lost my shit. I didn't lose my shit. I got really upset because I was like, wow, you've just, everything. It's tough. And I really respect and appreciate both of us through that process, because, you know.
Oh, I think it takes a lot. I mean, relationships, when you get to that point, you know, I don't know how long we've been dating. I think it'd been 5 or maybe just 5, 6 years maybe. And, you know, there's so many peaks and troughs. There's so many peaks and troughs, you know, you're flying high one minute and then you're fucking hating on each other the next minute, and to find that equilibrium. I think one thing that, you know, when you think about, and not that we should compare, but when you think about a promising relationship, one, I always look at like this, that if you are obviously going through shit and that other person is hearing you and making an effort, they're trying, they're doing their best, you know, they're doing their best to show up as best they can. And it's like a lab, you know, Beanie and I have gone through so much in terms of, you know, Beanie grows, I'm staying back a little bit. She talks about what she's feeling with me, and then I have the opportunity to step up. So it's always respected in terms of we're growing in ladders, you know, like we're slowly growing together. But ultimately, if you're with someone who's not able to respect or see, or even have the opportunity to see, you know, a different perspective or just an idea of wanting to be a better person, I think ultimately, to me, they're big signs, and you should 100%, hands down, all get everything that you want in a person. You know, after I broke up with my partner, I had this list. And I was like,
that's right.
I had a list.
What did you say when we were on a first date or something? Or like,
yeah,
I'm
getting
all right.
So I had this list of everything that I wanted in someone, you know, and it had 10 points. Get up in the morning, walk the fucking dog, have a good time, you know, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I met Beanie and she ticked every single one plus one, you know. So I encourage every single person, and knowing full well, you know, obviously the journey we've been on and the laws of attraction and fucking all that stuff, you know, you can have everything that you desire, everything. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but I'm going to say that if you put your full intentions about what it is that you want in someone, that person can meet you, and then you just have to keep showing up to meet them, and vice versa. And then if it's to be and you're expanding and growing together, you'll feel it, you'll know, you know, like now 18 years in, you know, I mean, the peaks and troughs don't happen so much with us anymore. You know, we're much more civilized. We still have moments, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, but it's a much more respectful, mature communication. We can both communicate effectively. We can both say, well, I'm feeling this right now, and blah, blah, blah. I need space. I need time to be on my own. She knows me. I know her.
And that's the thing too. There's ownership in it rather than reaction. It's like
ownership.
You know, as soon as we do something, not you do something, as soon as we do something, there is that acknowledgement in there, and an apology if it's necessary, and a witnessing of the behavior, and then like ascertaining what it is really that we're doing, you know. And sometimes if we don't know, like I know I'll turn around and say to you, I'm not sure what's going on yet, but I understand that I'm in this space or whatever. I'll let you know. And for the relationship to work in flow like that, then Nicola has to be able to turn around and say, okay, great, I'm here. If there's anything you need from me to do, I'm here, right? And giving me, so that gives me the space to go and like sort my shit out and grumble throughout half a day, or witness it, look at it, go, okay, what am I feeling? I'm looking at it and whatever, okay, I think it's this, and go back if I need to, or I don't have to explain it if I don't want to. I can just go back to Nicola and say, hey, sorry about my mood before, I'm all good now. Thank you for allowing me that space, right? And generally she will just leave that, right? Like you can just leave that unless I want to talk to her. And I think when we bring our own things into it, like if my partner was to turn around at that point, or if Nicola, let's say, because she is my partner, that makes more sense. If Nicola was to turn around to me and go, well, what was it? And I'm like, I don't need to go back into it. I don't want to go back into it because it was something that, you know, not even personal, but it didn't matter, right? And then her need or insecurity to know that everything was okay and that it wasn't about her or it wasn't about something, like that brings this whole energy back up to it. So that's what I mean, working on our own stuff. So we don't have to have this, you know, sometimes people might go, show me the evidence. Like if you go, I'm okay and it was nothing, oh, show me the evidence that you're going to be okay. Show me the evidence that this is not going to happen again. And it's like, how can you possibly turn around and say, I promise you that I am never, ever, 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 ever going to do this again? Like, it's impossible. It's like marriage, right? Like, how can you sign a certificate, put a ring on and go, I promise you on this day that I will marry, I will love you and commit to you for the rest of your life. Like, it's, to me, it's ridiculous. And I think when we do things like that, we're not living in the moment and we're not acknowledging the person and the stages we go through together. And we're not going deeper into things to look at them or honor them or allow them. Like, that's really, when we talk about love, you know, most people think of love in a way that is attachment. Like, it's a need, it's a want, it's provision. It's like, I will love you. Even you think about marriage, right? Like, I promise to do X, Y, and Z. Right? And it's like, really, I promise you, and this is why I love that story that we spoke of with that relationship, because it was, I will hold space for you no matter what until it's not okay. Right? If it's damaging me, if it's damaging Nicola, like, then that's not okay, right? But if people are just going through stuff that hurts, like, that's not the same thing to me. And that's just the way I see it. I don't expect other people to see it. And there is such a grey line, because people can bring in abusive relationships to this and justify. So I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm saying people will go through things. People will want to look outside their relationship. People will want to experience things naturally. Like, we want to, you know, we might be in a funk and we meet someone that stimulates something and therefore we think it is something that, and to me, that feels really normal. Like, I know people might not think that, but I think it's a normal process for a human. And it's the same thing I think about with people and taking their own lives, right? Like, I come back to myself. I don't come back to blaming them. I come back to myself and go, well, what are we doing in certain situations to make that okay? To let them know that it's okay to feel the way they're feeling, to explore it, as long as they're not hurting themselves or someone else, right? And so that was a bit of a segue. But what I'm saying is, we have to be able to say, this is the relationship, backwards, this is the relationship. There has to be like this on the sides, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, look, I think when you say this, I mean, Beanie has a very, very, very good ability to create space for people. This is one of her things, you know, she's very good at it, mate. I've had so many questions. When we did a long distance when I moved up to Brisbane, because I was going to be close to my family and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I remember calling Beanie and said, I don't know if I love you anymore, you know? And she was like, oh, okay, well, you know, you need space. Okay, well, yeah, you just let me know. And I'm like, fuck, she's like, who is she? She's so fucking random. How does she even do this? Kinesiology sessions. I don't know if I love you anymore. I don't know if I love you anymore. You know, like, so many.
I balanced you in our relationship.
Yeah, like I think it's potentially her superpower, because I'm just saying that if I was in the other position, being highly emotional, I don't know if I could have all my ducks or cheeses in a row, so to speak, because, you know, it's a lot to ask to be able to hold space. But ultimately now when Beanie says that stuff, I go, you know, if Beanie was to go through stuff, you know, I think I would like to think that I'd be able to do that, you know, now, because I have the maturity to go, well, you know, she's going through a process. Obviously, if she's still, you know, how long I hold space for, and, you know, what it kind of impacts on us and all that kind of stuff, you know, like, I mean, that would be a process within itself as to who you are in that process, you know. So I think that ideally, yes, I totally agree with you. Being able to hold space for someone, allow them to process what it is like the ultimate goal in a relationship, because you can truly know that you're not there because you need them. You're not there because you're not there just to be quantified as a valuable member of society. You know, you're there because you genuinely love that person. You ultimately want the best for them, and you want them to be authentically in love with you. And that is like the ultimate, I'm going to say, Buddha position, because you are able to really just, one, see yourself and know your boundaries and know that what you need is really important, but you're also able to see them and give them the space up until you're not able to.
Well, it's loving them until, I remember I used to say to you, I love you until I don't. And he used to say, stop saying that because it's horrible. But it's kind of like, it's a really like logical way to do it, right?
Yeah.
In that sense of like you're going along in a relationship, and true love is you're going along and it's like, you know, like one person might be over here for a minute and the other person might be over here for a minute, and you're loving the time when you're together. Like I used to use us as an example in appointments, and I say used to, it's not that I'm not doing appointments, it's just I haven't used us as an example for a while. And it was like that, if we were to break up, it would be through love. Do you know what I mean? It would be that we recognized that we changed enough that we weren't serving each other in that way anymore. And it would be purely through love that we broke up. Like it wouldn't be an argument. And I mean, one of my closest friends is my ex, you know, which some people might find funny, but I find it funny that people don't like their exes, you know, and I get it if they were dangerous or if things happen. Hello, Drakey. Speaking of unconditional love, he's got conditions. You've got to feed him and walk him all the time, let me tell you. You know, like I find it funny that people are in a relationship so intimately with someone and then it can become so hateful. You know, like I was in a relationship with my ex because I thought she was an amazing human. She doesn't stop being an amazing human because I'm not in a relationship anymore. Like that's that sort of thing. I had to, I don't know if you saw me smoking before. It wasn't through what you said. It was just something, well, something was said and I thought about the time when you, can we tell stories?
Yeah.
The time that you, we were going to New Zealand for my 40th.
Oh, yeah.
Which was like 9.5 years ago. And you sat me down.
I was about to have a serious conversation with Beanie Tompkins.
She sat me down to have a really serious conversation and I was like, oh my God. Anyway, I sat down and Nicholas said, I need to talk to you. I've organised something for you for us going to New Zealand. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, but I've decided to cancel it. And she said, I
don't want you to think it's because I don't love you. It's just, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't. But we were going to get married. I'd organised this whole thing. Fucking priest, you know, whatever. I was like, yeah. And then she had this face on her. And I was like, are you okay? And she's like.
And I turned around and I said, I'm sorry. And I said, oh, phew, thank goodness for that. I thought you were going to tell me I couldn't buy my motorbike.
And I went, and that's where our priorities lie.
Anyway, it was a really good thing because I honestly, Nicola really wanted to get married. And I don't believe in it. And we have come to a common ground on that, I believe.
Yeah.
Because I just don't understand why she's so kind of anti-establishment and then she wants to be committed within an establishment. So
I'd like to have a big party.
So we've agreed on a big party at some point.
Might be, but can I just 50th. No. But can I just also talk about love language as in a relationship too? You know, I think conditions in a relationship can be really toxic. You know, I'll do this if you do this for me. I'll do this if you do this for me. And whilst there's a balance in that, I absolutely get that. Sometimes it's out of balance because it's not their love language. And I think understanding each person's love language is really beautiful because it means it can create harmony in a relationship without having it to be a push and shove. You know, what do they really like doing that fills you up? What does the other person like doing that fills you up? You know, like say, for example, I love cooking, Beanie loves eating. Perfect. Beanie.
I actually don't like eating.
Okay.
So that's not a good example because I've never really, it's not that I don't like eating, I find it arduous.
Okay, well, she doesn't like cooking, let's say. Beanie doesn't mind cleaning. I don't like cleaning. So there's a bit of things like that. Kids, you know, what is that person like doing that you don't personally like doing? I think it becomes really toxic when it becomes, I did this, you do that, you know, like nitpicky is
I
what I'm
think
trying to
it's
say.
challenging. I feel like with a lot of people, and was us, it's really challenging to want someone else to be happy and do things for them when you have such disdain towards them. And I see this a lot more in couples that have children, because there's so much more pressure when children arise, and it's like everyone goes, oh, it's going to be this wonderful thing, and they say it is a wonderful thing. However, they lose parts of themselves, and there's so much more
compromise.
Well, there's sacrifice, but there's so much more that time that it takes out of your life, that where is that space for each other in a relationship unless you make it a priority? And then you see this disdain come in. So it's like, if you just said to yourself, like, I want to do something for you because I want to do something for you, because I love you and I think that it would be lovely. It's sometimes not even something that I want to do, right? But I'll do it because I want to do it for you in that space, and I know it's something that you love, right? But I know in the past when we weren't like having great times, it's like, fuck you, I don't want to do anything for you.
Yeah.
Right? Why would I want to do something for you? Like, it's like dragging your feet. So understanding that as a process as well, like it's got to be brought back, doesn't it? Like into a space of going, I want to not feel that disdain towards you.
Yeah, and
right. So you can't just jump into like, I want to love that person, I want to do that thing for them, if you're doing it with that whole like, you know, like, I'll do this for you while you're making noise about it, right? Like, there's no point. Sorry, Drake, you're scared in the table then. Like, there's no point in doing it.
So isn't it, when that happens and you feel that, don't you think it's about communicating how you're feeling?
Yes, but I think I think unless you're in a relationship where you can do that and help each other through that, like I said before, if I came to you and I said, I'm not sure why I feel this way, but I'm just letting you know this is how I feel at the moment, and you want to work with it with me, for sure. But if you're in a relationship where there isn't that, or there isn't that ability,
what do you do?
I would like phone a friend and like go, I'm not sure what I'm feeling here, what do you think about this? Or speak to someone, because if you're just going to someone with something and then they have absolutely no capacity or idea as to understanding of it, like that can just add fuel to fire, right? Like,
so you're saying that if you were to wanting to improve a relationship and wanting to improve how you felt about it, I mean, and if you were with someone that wasn't able to communicate, you know, I mean, I think that if they had tried, I think it comes to me, for me, I feel like it comes back to communication. It comes back to, because vulnerability, let's say you're dating someone who's totally not emotionally available, and then you're like semi-switched on and you're trying to have a conversation and they're, you know, not able to receive. I think you still have to give them the benefit of the doubt. And let's say you give them a benefit of the doubt 5-6 times and they're not able to receive you, then isn't that a choice to go, okay, they're not where I need of what I want?
Do you meet in life more people that can communicate well or less? Less, right? So this is what I'm saying. It's really challenging to, you can try and communicate with someone and you can absolutely practice communicating and teaching what that is. But I'm saying a majority of people don't know how to communicate properly.
Okay, so
they don't understand how to communicate with themselves to what they're feeling, and they don't know how to communicate.
So what would you do? If you're in a position where, you know, you weren't, I mean, to me, because relationships are super important to me, and having authentic relationships and fucking honest relationships are super important, and being able to communicate. If I wasn't able to communicate with someone and I'd given 5 or 6 times, I'd be like, all right, let's pack our bags and sayonara.
Third party.
Straight
away I would get in a third party. If you can't do it together with the two of you, you need someone else to help you. Like, that's like, for me, that's what I think.
Well, I think communication is so important.
And also, like, there's lots of templates that can be used for conversations, right? Of honoring something, and you can learn with each other, like just going through those templates of questions.
Yeah, I think,
you know, of honoring that. Like you say, when you said this thing, it made me feel this way, or I felt like this, and it's like, I can understand you would have felt like that.
Yeah, well,
you know, so I'll add to it, you know, whatever. Like,
yeah, and I think to your point, a really great statement that is used, and correct me if I'm wrong because I probably will be, you know, when you said this, I felt like this, and they will go, oh, and then what did you say? When I felt, what do you say? When I feel like, what is it?
I don't know.
Oh, so it's okay. So it's like when you did this, I felt like this. I would like to feel like this. And so then they have and then you go to them, how can we get to a point? How do you think we could do this? And then you also say, and I also want you to feel amazing about this relationship. So if there's anything that I'm doing, I am open to receive and grow in this space. And ultimately, you know, in some part in the relationship, someone will have to lead. You know, if you want to create an exceptional relationship, someone has to barge through the fucking ego, because the ego will keep you in pain, trauma, and unfairness. And unfairness is great, but it doesn't resolve anything. So the ability to communicate and be able to say those statements puts you in a really vulnerable space to go, hey, I'm open to learning, I'm open to receiving. If you're on a defensive about what it is that you want, there is nothing that's going to be achieved there. I understand that there's room for that in a relationship, obviously, because we can't always be flying fucking Buddhas. However, ultimately, if you want to resolve and grow as a partnership, a massive amount of vulnerability has to take place where your heart will slightly burst open for the new to come in.
Can I add something to what you
Of
said
course,
before?
I would love that.
And I know you said, I would love you to see this amazing relationship. So if there's anything I can do, the only thing that wasn't done in that was to offer to them, how are they feeling?
Yeah.
Right. And they might not know, but working with that, like what is that? Right. So it's making sure that you're getting your needs met whilst also meeting the needs of another.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and this is where I'm saying it's tricky, because people don't know even how to communicate that. And I think learning that communication is an amazing tool for people, because without that, they don't understand anything as to how to, do you know what I mean? Like there's stages in that. I'm not saying it very well right now because I wasn't really prepared in my mind to go into this. We're talking about us, but yeah, it has to come from that ability to ascertain what you're feeling in your own body, and coming back to your body, and just not being up here all the time going, well, you know, and ready for like, if you're sitting there ready for a
conversation or
an
argument.
Another word that I was thinking of. But it's like you're ready like that, you know, then what's the point? Like, what's the point in going to that into that conversation? It's like surrendering into something, surrendering into what you don't know yet, right? Would be the thing, because we go in with this, I know that you're an asshole. I know that I don't like you right now. I don't like it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. What about what we don't know?
Yeah.
You know, and inquiring into what does that feel like for me? Not just, you know, it feels okay. It's like, what does it really feel like?
Yeah. That's a really good point.
What does it feel like, everything? And especially, like, it's not just a male and female thing, because let me tell you, females don't, like, humans don't know, like, their emotions. I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't.
I was always on the surface because I was so protected. I had such a closed space of survival that I was like, oh, okay, you know, but no one knows so many of my close friends have no idea my 20 years of anxiety. Like, that's how good I was at it. And that's not a medal that I want to carry, because that just shows me how much I sacrificed myself, right? But people don't understand and have never been taught, and this is even after talk therapy and all these other things, and it's like, oh, well, what are you feeling? And they'll go, oh yeah, I spoke about it, feel better, I'll walk out the door. And it's like, you haven't even scratched the surface, sometimes, not always, but in that space, because you still are switched off to who you are and any feeling. You know, it becomes a really surface response. It's like shooting bullets, right? So you become this little unit that's sitting there just waiting for people to either let people shoot at you or shoot at others, right? Like it becomes so survivally because there's no depth in the emotional space of it and understanding. And I could go into, that's why we drink, that's why we take drugs, that's why humanity takes all these things, because it's so painful to be in an existence of that. If we just dropped a layer or two deeper and learn emotional spaces and learn how to ascertain exactly how we're feeling.
And I think, you know, if we're just tapping into relationship and kids, you know, I'm going to say that, you know, these kids today are born with such emotional intelligence that we have, like, they're saying shit that I'm saying, you know, and I've been on this path.
Are you saying you're emotionally intelligent?
I'm both.
Or are you saying you've got the emotional intelligence of a 1-year-old?
Well, I'm just saying that 1-year-olds are very highly emotionally intelligent, so maybe I'm on the same pathway. But what I'm saying is it is of duty, I believe, you know, for us as humans to really start understanding the complexity of the psychology of humans and how we can start breaking down these really dense way of being that have been really limited and refraining from our truth and speaking the truth. And one of the things I want to finish on in this conversation, we can talk about more later, or we can keep talking too, I don't care, is that honesty of how you are feeling is the most critical thing you can do in a relationship.
I thought you were going to say courageous, which is another word you could put to that as well.
100%.
And sometimes when you're being honest about your emotions, that emotion at the time might be, I have no idea of what's going on inside of me right now. Right? And going to the most basic things and just opening your mouth to say it. I don't feel great, but I have no idea why.
Yeah.
And if the person in front of you says, I can't help you, then go and ask someone else, because this is where it starts, this communication of going, people don't do it because they go, I don't know how to do it. Right? I didn't know how to muscle test as a kinesiologist. I went and learnt it from someone. I didn't know much about my emotional states as much. Like I was like a little puppy. I was like, everything's okay. Everything's going to be okay. As long as I'm nice to everyone and make everything okay, then it'll be okay. Right? Like it was such a puppy mentality of, oh, yeah, will you be my friend? Well, it wasn't like that, but you know. And so what was I saying? My point is, if you don't know and the person in front of you can't help you, ask the next person or someone that might be able to help you. How can I understand what is going on inside of me and how I can feel, so I can communicate that feeling in relationships to have a deeper understanding? Otherwise, we're just living life on the surface.
We are.
And when we get connected and deep in relationship, whether it's friendships, acquaintances, physical, sexual relationships, or anything, like the opportunity for deep connection that is so profoundly beautiful, a little bit annoying sometimes for sure, because we need to be agitated, or we need that friction to grow. But to feel that deep connection with people, it's so important and it's so potent. And it's so beautiful, and this is where we're heading. This is where we need to be going. This is where astrology is taking us, not to get too woo-woo. This is where astrology is taking us. Why wouldn't we want to be deeply connected? The only people that don't are saying it because they fear they can't. And I don't want that to sound mean, but it's kind of...
It's not mean. I think it's opportunity. It's the truth.
It is, but... Yeah. I'm gonna leave it at that. I would love for you to go deeper into what are emotions, how do you express emotions. Maybe we do a thing on that, but
I think it'd be good to talk about codependency too, because that was one other thing that we went through a lot of, you know, being a same-sex relationship. I think one of the things that we struggled with, or I struggled with, was, you know, being with each other most of the time. You know, we've worked for ourselves most of our lives, you know, so we've had that I think we went through a big codependency thing.
That's a whole good topic to talk about, that you won't do now because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
However, people may say because we spend pretty much all of our time together still, because we do a lot of work together and play together because we just love hanging out with each other. And it works, right? And it was codependent at a time. There was a time when I was quite like, I need to do something, and you're like, well, but we should be able to hang out together, and I needed space. Yeah. Whereas now it's healthy, and we like hanging out with each other, and we enjoy each other's company. So I don't believe right now it's codependent. Maybe if we ticked a list of what is codependence, to me, codependency comes down to a deep need, and without that, we're not okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you weren't here, I would miss you incredibly, and I would be incredibly sad for quite some time, I believe. But I don't need you for my survival.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, definitely. I think the codependency thing for me, I mean, from my perspective, once I recognised that there was a big thing there, I made it my intention to move to liberation where that need wasn't as great, and it comes from love. It's that deep need. It comes from that deep need to feel loved, and you feel in your mind that the only way you can really feel loved is having a fucking massive attachment to your partner. And whilst that might sound fucking great, it's not great, because there's so many fucking flaws and toxicity and all that kind of stuff that comes from it, because it comes from an insecurity. And ultimately we want to be whole and authentic in our relationship. I don't want to feel like I need Beanie in my life. I love her. I want her in my life. I definitely don't need her, but she's in my life, and I love that. Winner.
Which is love. Like, you know, to me, that is love. You can't be in love and codependent at the same time. And that's why I'm saying, yes, we spend a lot of time together. Yes, we live our lives in each other's pockets, really.
But how awesome is it?
I don't need you. That sounds terrible. Yeah.
You don't need me. I just said I don't need you.
Yeah, I know. I've already said it before, but I don't want to reiterate it like it's a deep point. You need to know that I don't need you, okay? I'm really, really grateful and happy of the love that we have. I thank you for 18 years.
I thank you.
And I thank you for all the lessons and all of the joy and all of the puppies that we've had. 3 puppies in our relationship, 4 if we include Billy. Yeah. So thank you for the journey thus far.
Thank you. I think it's the most freeing and loving experience that you can have when you just are able to be all of you, and you're not scared about saying or doing whatever you want. I think that's the most liberating, loving relationship you can have. And I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I fucking have. I love doing this.
Good.
I love doing this with you.
Let's continue.
Strakey, he's saying signing out. Much love. You're awesome.
Don't forget to put the subscribe thing. We're going to get better at this promotion at the end too. So smash that like button and leave a comment about your relationships, communication, what you thought about all of this. And if you have any ideas about what you want us to talk about, you can just leave a comment underneath as well. We'll get back to you. Tell your friends, share with someone if you think that will help them. And you know what we're doing? Okay. Thanks, guys. Peace out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye. Let's get to 10 subscribers.
Yeah. Fuck Bean, how awesome was that?
It was a pretty good time, Nick.
Thanks so much for joining us on our podcast.
We look forward to seeing you next week, where we talk more
on all things blue unicorns, aliens, and everything in between.
On
Nick and Beans
Unscripted.